Imagine this. You're standing in a field in southern Italy. It's August 2nd, 216 BC. The sun is rising. Around you are 86,000 Roman soldiers, the largest army Rome has ever assembled. You're about to face Hannibal, the Carthaginian general who's been terrorizing Italy for 2 years. But you're not worried. You outnumber him almost 2 to 1. You have the best trained infantry in the world. You have 2 Roman consuls commanding. You have the entire might of the Republic behind you. Victory is certain. 8 hours later, 50,000 of you are dead. The rest are running for their lives. The field is covered in so many bodies you can't see the ground. The rivers run red with blood. The air is thick with screams. And Hannibal? He's lost 1,500 men. 1,500. This isn't just a battle, this is the greatest military disaster in Roman history. Some say in all of history this is Cannae. And for 8 hours, Hannibal showed the world what happens when genius meets arrogance. Let me show you how Rome lost 50,000 men before lunch. To understand Cannae, you need to understand Hannibal Barca. This isn't some barbarian warlord. This is one of the most brilliant military minds who ever lived. Hannibal was born in 247 BC in Carthage, modern-day Tunisia. His father, Hannibal Barca, was a legendary general who fought Rome in the First Punic War. And when Hannibal was 9 years old, his father made him swear an oath of eternal hatred toward Rome. Think about that. 9 years old, and your father makes you promise to dedicate your life to destroying an empire. Hannibal kept that promise. By 218 BC, when he was just 29 years old, Hannibal did something Rome thought was impossible. He invaded Italy from Spain by marching through the Alps with elephants. The Romans laughed when they heard, "You can't march an army through the Alps. It's suicide. The mountains, the cold, the hostile tribes." Hannibal lost half his men doing it, but he made it. And for the next 2 years, he rampaged through Italy, destroying every Roman army sent against him. At the Battle of Trebia, 17,000 Romans dead. At Lake Trasimene, 15,000 Romans dead. Rome was terrified. They'd never faced anyone like this. So in 216 BC, Rome did what Rome always did when desperate. They went bigger. They raised the largest army in Roman history. 86,000 men, 8 full legions, plus allied troops, plus cavalry. They put 2 consuls in command, Gaius Terentius Varro and Lucius Aemilius Paullus. Basically, 2 commanders sharing control. What could go wrong? The plan was simple. Find Hannibal. Crush him with overwhelming numbers. End this war. They found him near the town of Cannae in southern Italy. Hannibal had 50,000 men, mostly infantry, some cavalry. Rome had 86,000. The math was easy. Rome would win. Except Hannibal wasn't planning to fight fair. Here's what makes Cannae genius. Hannibal didn't just want to beat Rome, he wanted to annihilate them, and he knew exactly how to do it. The Roman strategy was always the same. Form a massive rectangle of heavy infantry. March forward like a human battering ram. Crush everything in your path. It worked. Every single time, for centuries. Hannibal had seen it, he'd studied it, and he'd figured out how to break it. The day before the battle, Hannibal positioned his army on a flat plain near the Aufidus River. Perfect for the kind of formation he had in mind. His center, where the main fighting would happen, he filled with Gauls and Spaniards. Good fighters, but not great. And he deliberately made this line weak. On his flanks, the sides, he put his best African heavy infantry, veterans, experienced, disciplined, and on the wings, the very edges, he put his cavalry, under the command of his brother Hasdrubal. The Romans looked at this formation and saw an easy win. Hannibal's center looked weak. They'd smash through it. Simple. But here's the trick. Hannibal's center wasn't supposed to hold. It was bait. The Roman consuls argued the night before the battle. Paullus, the experienced one, thought they should wait. Be cautious. Hannibal was too smart to face head-on. Varro, the aggressive one, wanted to attack immediately. Crush Hannibal before he could escape. Guess who won the argument? On the morning of August 2nd, 216 BC, the Romans formed up. 86,000 men in their traditional rectangle, packed tight, shields locked, ready to march forward and destroy anything in their path. Hannibal watched them form up, and he smiled. The trap was set. The battle starts with the cavalry. On both flanks, Hannibal's cavalry smashes into the Roman cavalry. And here's the thing, Hannibal's cavalry is better, much better. On the right flank, the Roman cavalry breaks almost immediately. They run. Just flee the battlefield. On the left flank, it takes a bit longer, but the result is the same. The Roman cavalry is destroyed or scattered. Now here's where it gets critical. With the Roman cavalry gone, Hannibal's cavalry is free. And instead of chasing the fleeing Romans, they do something brilliant. They circle around behind the Roman infantry. But the Romans don't know this yet, because they're focused on what's in front of them. The Roman infantry begins its advance, 80,000 men marching forward like a massive fist. Shields up, swords ready, unstoppable. They slam into Hannibal's center, the Gauls and Spaniards, and just like Hannibal planned, his center starts to give way. The Romans push forward. They're winning. The line is breaking. Varro is ecstatic. See, I told you, just march forward and crush them. The Roman infantry pushes deeper. Hannibal's center keeps bending, backwards, further, further. The Romans are so focused on pushing forward that they don't notice what's happening. The flanks, as the Roman center pushes forward into Hannibal's bending line, something happens to the Roman formation. It compresses. It gets tighter. The Romans pack closer together. They can barely move. And that's when Hannibal springs the trap. His African heavy infantry, the veterans on the flanks, wheel inward. They hit the Roman flanks from both sides at the same time. The Romans try to turn to face this new threat, but they can't. They're packed too tight. They can't maneuver. They can't even lift their weapons properly, and then it gets worse. Hannibal's cavalry, remember them, comes crashing into the Roman rear. The Romans are now surrounded completely. Front, both sides, back, enclosed in a killing box. This is called a double envelopment, and it's never been executed this perfectly. Not before, not since. Now imagine you're a Roman soldier in the middle of that formation. You can't move. There are men pressed against you on all sides. You can barely breathe. You can't see what's happening. You just hear screaming. Metal on metal. Men dying all around you. And you're being pushed from behind as men try to escape. But there's nowhere to go. The men in front of you are being cut down. The men beside you are falling. You can't run. You can't fight effectively. You can't even raise your shield properly. You're just waiting to die. For 6 hours, the killing continues. 6 hours. The Romans can't break out. They can't surrender effectively. Hannibal's men just keep killing, and killing, and killing. 50,000 Romans die in that field. The consul Paullus, the one who wanted to wait, dies fighting, trying to save his men. Varro, the one who insisted on attacking, runs. He escapes, with about 70 survivors, 70, out of 86,000. When the sun sets on August 2nd, the field at Cannae is indescribable. Ancient sources say you couldn't walk across the battlefield without stepping on bodies. The ground was slick with blood. The river was clogged with corpses. Hannibal's men spent the next day just collecting rings from dead Roman senators and equestrians. They sent them back to Carthage to prove what they'd done. They sent 3 bushels of gold rings. 3 bushels. That's how many Roman elites died at Cannae. Rome lost 1/5 of its entire male citizen population in 8 hours. Every family in Rome lost someone. Senators, soldiers, sons, fathers, brothers. When the news reached Rome, the city went into mourning. For weeks, the streets were filled with wailing. Black cloth hung from every building. The Senate limited mourning to 30 days, not because the grief wasn't justified, because if they didn't, the entire city would collapse. Rome had lost battles before, but never like this. And here's what makes Cannae even more incredible and more terrifying for Rome. Hannibal was now in Italy with a victorious army, and Rome's military was shattered. He could march on Rome itself. The city was barely defended. Everyone expected it. This is it. Rome is finished. But Hannibal didn't march on Rome. He waited. He negotiated with Italian cities to defect. He tried to break Rome's alliance system, and that gave Rome time. Time to do what Rome did better than anyone else in history. They refused to quit. Other civilizations would have surrendered after Cannae. Any sane nation would have sued for peace. Rome didn't. They raised new legions. They freed slaves and armed them. They recruited 16-year-old boys. They changed their strategy. They stopped fighting Hannibal directly. They harassed his supply lines. They retook cities that had defected. They practiced what we'd now call guerrilla warfare. For 14 more years, Hannibal stayed in Italy, winning battles, but never winning the war, because Rome refused to quit. Eventually, Rome invaded Carthage itself. Hannibal was forced to go home to defend his city. At the Battle of Zama in 202 BC, Rome finally defeated him, and they never forgot Cannae. So why does Cannae matter? Why does a battle from 216 BC still get studied in military academies today? Because it was perfect. Hannibal took a smaller force and didn't just beat a larger army. He destroyed it completely. The double envelopment, surrounding your enemy and crushing them from all sides, it's called the Cannae maneuver to this day. The Germans tried it in World War I. The Allies tried it in World War II. Military strategists still study how Hannibal did it. But here's the deeper lesson. Cannae shows the limits of genius. Hannibal won the battle, the greatest tactical victory in military history. But he lost the war, because Rome had something Hannibal didn't. Not better generals, not better tactics, not even better soldiers. Rome had refusal. They refused to accept defeat. They refused to quit. They refused to believe they could lose. 50,000 dead? They raised new armies. Allies defecting? They won them back. Hannibal unbeaten in Italy for 14 years? They outlasted him. Cannae killed 50,000 Romans in 8 hours, but it couldn't kill Rome. And that's the paradox of Cannae. It was the greatest military victory in history. And it meant nothing, because in the end, Rome won. And Hannibal ended up a fugitive, running from Roman assassins, eventually dying by his own hand to avoid capture. The man who killed 50,000 Romans in a single day ended up losing everything. So what do we learn from Cannae? That brilliance isn't enough. That winning battles doesn't mean winning wars. That sometimes the side that refuses to quit, no matter the cost, is the side that survives. Rome should have died at Cannae, but they didn't. They got up, they rebuilt, they fought on. And that's why Rome became an empire. And that's why we still remember Cannae. Not just as a massacre, but as the day Rome learned that survival isn't about never falling down, it's about getting back up. Even when 50,000 of your people are dead, even when the greatest general in history is at your gates, even when all hope is gone, you get back up. If you want more stories about the battles that defined history, the victories, the disasters, and the moments that changed everything, subscribe and hit that notification bell. Because history isn't just about who won, it's about what the losers did next. Thanks for watching.